What's up, music fans of the internet? I'm Kevin.
I'm Derek.
And together we are last week's album, The Only Reviews, with two different views. And in this episode, we're talking about the new album by The Amazing called Ambulance, and asking the question, does The Amazing's Ambulance heal you with Haze? Cheers, Derek, and everyone at home.
Cheers, Kevin, everyone at home.
A little background on The Amazing. You might ask The Amazing what? And that's a great question that will have to remain unanswered. It's just The Amazing. They are a Swedish quintet. This is their fourth album, coming barely a year after their well-received last album, which was called Picture You. And this one was recorded live with only a few takes to rehearse, so it's got this sort of fresh improvisational feel while the songs are literally kind of being finalized and written as they record. So let's talk about what it sounds like. Derek, what do you think?
Kevin, I think The Amazing sounds like My Morning Jacket and Bon Iver meet the tallest man on earth and of Monsters and Men in Iceland for 24-hour songwriting / recording sesh.
Wow. That sounds like a documentary that needs to be made.
Because there's like 24 hours sunshine there. If you wanted, that would be one day. That would be an incredible day.
That's true. I think it sounds like a more subdued The Smiths meets a livelier Nick Drake.
Yeah, I hear those.
Let's talk about some highlights. Derek, what did you have first on your list?
One thing that really stood out to me was just the lush sound, built with lots of guitars, mostly electric, but some acoustic. And with the three guitar players, there's oftentimes a lot going on, but none of it seems to be off kilter. It all seems to layer itself in a mesmerizing way.
It's funny you called that out because I had that in my notes as well. I thought the guitars are a really spectacular part of this album. There's a lot of reverb going on the guitars as well, lots of layers and things like that. The tracks that stood out to me as far as guitars were Divide, Tracks, and then Through the Lights.
Divide stood out to me as well, just with the opening contrasting rising and falling electric guitar riffs. While they're directionally going complete opposite directions, they really in unison still sound very cohesive and creates a very intriguing sound there.
And then aside from guitars, Derek, I thought another instrument that really stood out to me were the drums. Particularly, they were great on the opening track, Ambulance, and then later on Blair Drager, I'm guessing is how you say it.
I'm glad you said that because drums was next on my list. The one track where the drums really stood out to me was Through City Lights. Just the dramatic shifts in rhythm from slow to fast and back again was particularly good. That one in particular, I thought you could get lost in and doesn't feel like the 7-minute track it really is in elapsed time.
Yeah, Through City Lights was actually probably my favorite track on the album. And I think, to your point, that's pretty hard to do a really long song really well. Shimmering guitar, plodding drums, layered vocals, creating this really mesmerizing vibe. My last highlight was just the sort of overall haze and melancholy I thought were really contagious. Surprisingly, I think it's easy for both those elements to be sort of overwhelming or annoying, but The Amazing pulls it off with, I thought, just the right amount of restraint.
I think one area that kind of shows itself was the sometimes almost intelligible lyrics. A lot of times they mixed it so the vocals are very close to the overall sound, so it's really hard to kind of tell specifics at times, but sometimes a word or two or phrase comes in more clear than most others. And I think that was a good way to kind of help really bring the listener into the overall emotions they're trying to evoke with the overall, hazy sound.
I'll actually disagree with you here, Derek. I thought the vocals were one of the lowlights for me. It definitely fit the mood and the vibe of the overall record and this sound of Haze, but there just wasn't much variety in their delivery. And then also, to your point, they were buried in the mix, and I'm sure it was intentional. It was too much for me. I couldn't make out what he was singing about enough for me to be able to connect with it.
Glad you brought that up because I really kind of had that as a low light as well. I really think it can kind of go both ways here. I think it's ambiguous enough to kind of allow the listener to make their own sense of it, if you will.
But let's talk about overall rating and answering the big question. Does the Amazing's Ambulance heal you with Haze? Derek, what do you say?
Kevin, to answer the big question, absolutely. I think it does. Overall, I really dug this. I think this is a fantastic album to get lost in. Incredibly lush sounds, layered guitars, and solid guitar work really drew me in as a listener. And I really enjoyed being enveloped in that haze of sound. Overall, I think The Amazing is pretty darn good. And so that's why I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5.
Would you say The Amazing is amazing, Derek?
I would.
I will agree for the most part. Does Ambulance heal you with Haze? I think so. As I mentioned before, I think they do Haze very, very well. And that's something that's pretty hard to do. I think it's a really good record if it's raining outside or if you're feeling particularly reflective or contemplative. I enjoyed their sound as well. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5 with Derek's 4. That's a combined 7 out of 10. So definitely check out Ambulance by The Amazing and let us know how amazing you think it is. And don't forget to subscribe to us here at Last Week's Album, either on YouTube or the podcast. As always, I'm Kevin.
I'm Derek.
Cheers, guys. We'll see you next time.